our area is so selfless.
Truly.
Right? They're so selfless. And when we're all pulling in the same direction and we get locked into something, our people make it happen. That's the beauty of coming back to the city of Midland, right? Like, you get a group of like-minded people together who are passionate about a thing, and it's gonna happen.
Hi, my name is Jessica McCoy, and I'm your host here at Raising Midland, a podcast for parents of the Permian. I'm here with my friend Trovocie Jackson, who's the executive director with the Midland Athletic Syndicate. Join me as we have a conversation of what the Midland Athletic Syndicate is and what it's going to do for us here in West Texas. Help me join in my friend Trovocie. How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
I know. I don't know how to, start these conversations. I feel like I'm very newscaster, and then all of a sudden it turns into like a conversational friend conversation. So.
Yeah, I enjoy conversation.
That's good. That's really good. Okay, so just to give a little bit of background, I know I always ask people to write in paragraphs of who they are, but selfishly, that's mostly for me. But let's kind of go over about who you are. Like, you're from Midland.
From Midland, yeah,
That's
man.
awesome.
Born, raised Midland, Texas.
Cool.
Proud Midland High kid.
That matters. I'm not from here, and I've learned that what high school, y'all, the rivalry is actually, obviously we're going to post this a little bit later, but this weekend is the Legacy High School versus Midland High School football game.
Correct.
And I'm learning through my son, because apparently both Legacy and Midland High went to his elementary school, and they were talking about the rivalry and like what it means for the city. And I'm like, the things you learn when you move somewhere new.
No, it's a lot of fun. I'm not sure of win-loss records and all of those kinds of things.
I won't test you, don't worry.
and to me, it doesn't even matter.
That's cool.
But it does make it fun, though.
Absolutely. The one thing that I've noticed about Midland, regardless of what team you support, there's so much buy-in for people. I mean, we're talking, like, I know Midland High School, I know Legacy, I think it does this as well, but they have the little kids from the elementary schools support and like run out with the football players, and like you can sponsor the football players. I just think that's great, really tying in the future NIL deals with these football players. But, I have to mention that because the NIL thing is fantastic. I just think it's interesting and fantastic, but that's another podcast. Excuse me. So let's get into it. So you said, I was looking at your bio, and you're a 16-year tenured teacher. So what subjects did you teach?
History, economics, world history, U.S. history.
I'm a huge nerd when it comes to history.
But the last 6 years I was in the special ed department.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, tell me about
education.
that.
In that case, I didn't start that process till I got to Burleson Centennial and worked again in the special education department. Just again, servicing those kids, man, that had some cognitive differences. Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah, they just thought a little differently.
I get that. Hey, I have dyslexia and dyscalculia.
Okay.
So I literally do, and dysgraphia. So I have like all three. Oh, I know that there's more.
Yeah.
Of learning differences. And so I read backwards. Sometimes you'll notice with my words, I might say things out of joint, in how most people would say it. And then I literally can't read a clock. So I, read backwards, I do math backwards, and I can't read a clock. So I understand.
Yeah.
But that's so interesting. One of the things I was doing prior to us interviewing was doing some research on the demographics of student athletes. Have it be from starting in middle school is when we start our research. Obviously, there's a lot of complexities with, doing research on children under the age of 18. But the Aspen Institute is where a lot of research is done on youth sports. And there are a lot of student athletes who have disabilities, like learning disabilities.
Oh, yeah. And we, as a head basketball coach and being involved in it for the last 16 years, you notice it a lot. And then, of course, being on the special education side of it, you see a lot of the paperwork on a lot of the things, too.
Well, 504 modifications,
yes,
IEPs.
IEPs, all of the things. And you recognize it, and you start to recognize them even more and how best to even teach and coach these kids because,
we think differently.
100%.
One of the things I learned, my coach growing up was actually dyslexic too. And one of the ways, this is just pertaining to dyslexic thinkers, we tend to have a top-down approach.
No.
So if you give me granular information, like tiny little details, and you don't tell me the big picture, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's so interesting, and it really does affect your coaching, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
So going from history and like learning all of these, like I feel like every football coach and basketball coach in your high school is either teaching history or like economics. That's like a whole other level. Like that's awesome. Yeah. But, you know, I think it goes hand in hand because in order to play sports, you have to know about people.
Yes.
And if you can't connect with people on your team that might be different from you, like you really truly can't have a team environment.
No, and you're missing the best part of sports, right? Like,
tell me more about that from your perspective.
I mean, sports are important because of the human element, right? Like, and if you can't relate to a teammate, right? Like,
Yep.
Then
it's a universal experience, right? So like
yes.
if you're playing basketball or like you're playing soccer with someone, at the end of the day, I always tell my students, be where your feet are.
Yes.
Okay. If your feet are on a soccer field, your head has to be in the game and you have to be thinking about your team, right? It doesn't matter, you know, where your parents are from, what, you know, what part of the state are you from? Like, what's your background?
No.
What matters is where your feet are.
Yeah. And we, you know, it was like I had posted something because it was just kind of going through my head, and I posted something the other day, and it was just simply like, man, like just kind of basically playing ode to basketball, right, and what it's done for me. And I was like, man, the game of basketball has put me in at the table of a lot of different demographics. And at no point within that did we ever mention, right, that you were different than me. And it was all, you know what I mean? None of those demos were ever mentioned. It was just, oh, we have a task, right? And
We're on a
enjoy
team.
it. We're on a team. Like,
That's my favorite part about being an athlete. And like, you know, I was reading something on Ellevest, which is a female investment firm, and started by some former CEO of Charles Schwab, and she created her own investment firm, and it's specifically targeted towards women. And recently, they did a study on the female CEOs of Fortune 500 companies or Fortune 100, and everyone in between. The majority of female CEOs are former athletes.
yes.
And they don't view themselves as CEOs; they view themselves as athletes. So, you know, we've jumped around a lot, but I feel like it's relevant. So, being a basketball coach, how were you able to identify leadership qualities in your students?
The biggest thing was just in terms of leadership, like, can you follow, right? Do you have the confidence to be able to follow?
Ooh, wait, that's a good point. Because you do have to be confident and like take yourself out of the situation in order to be free to actually allow someone to lead you.
Yes. And, you know, like, so kind of circle all the way back, you know, just the importance of sport and those kinds of things as you talk about the leadership point. Like, man, it's what can you do without ego? Right. And you can do so many cool things in terms of leadership because, again, you recognize, oh, I have limitations in an area where you have a strength in the same area, but we complement one another. So all of a sudden our punch is way stronger. You know, I mean, I feel like I'm rambling, but.
No, you're not. What I was going to say and tap onto that is, as a parent myself, I know you're a parent too.
Yes.
It's a difficult thing to teach that. I truly don't believe that parents can they can teach an understanding of what leadership quality is. They can give people the perspective and their children the perspective of like, okay, well, you have to listen to your teachers. But it's where the magic happens is the third space. And there's a lot of research done on that. What the third space, for people who don't know, is a place outside of school and outside of your home where you can develop and grow as a child specifically.
Absolutely.
So that was a good tag in, right? Right. There
Absolutely.
you go.
Man, shout out Midland Athletic Syndicate.
Midland Athletic Syndicate is that third space. So like, you know, talking about that, being a basketball coach, being a former history teacher and economics teacher, and also working in special education. I mean, you're truly a renaissance man, meaning like you have seen a lot that has created you a dynamic leader for this position. So at the Midland Athletic Syndicate. So, let's first off backtrack. What is the Midland Athletic Syndicate, and how are you going to use your life experience for your leadership in that role?
Well, the Midland Athletic Syndicate is a new nonprofit organization built here again that's geared around kids in sports. We'll have a big facility being built, 115,000 square foot facility, 6 full court basketball that transitions quickly into 12 youth basketball courts, 12 volleyball courts, and then we'll have the largest indoor turf space in the Permian Basin for indoor soccer, amongst a myriad of other different things.
Wow, because you can play basketball, you can play volleyball probably. I'm thinking soccer, lacrosse probably. I mean, I don't know if Midland has a lacrosse, but I'm just thinking in sports in general. Yeah. That's just, it's like a big open slate. So knowing the things that I mean, you can draw upon your education in how to lead children in a school classroom. You can also draw upon working with students who might have special abilities. I mean, it seems like it's a conglomerate or an amalgamation of things that you have been able to take out of your life, and you're given this giant open space to do whatever, right?
Yes. And it's really, really neat, just because it's this big blob of clay.
That's awesome.
In terms of we get the opportunity to truly turn this thing into whatever we want to turn it into. And shape it into what is best for the kids here in the city of Midland.
Don't they always say, if you build it, they will come, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think there's something to that because, working in the nonprofit sector, I'm sure, I mean, you probably experience this every day. I just know this from my volunteering in some capacities, but a lot of the times decision making is based off of KPIs, key performance indicators, right?
Yes.
So with that in mind, I mean, it is such a unique situation. So let's kind of show some light on that. Typically speaking, a nonprofit has to have very clear goals and this is what we're doing, this is the strategies, this is how we're going to get our goals. And the reason for that is because donors want that level of granularity. But oftentimes people forget when you're first starting a nonprofit, oftentimes it's of great privilege too, to be able to have that open slate.
Yes.
And say, we're going to build something and we're going to listen to the community and listen to what they need. So what are some of the things that you think you're going to anticipate your students and families, what they might need with the facility?
Just from conversations and emails and text messages and things in which that I've received since accepting this position July 1st, clear thing number one, again, is court space.
Okay.
Right? That is a clear and obvious need. Two, safe space, right, for kids, right? When you talk about that third space. Right? And then just access to indoor facilities, especially considering, again, the safety hazards when it comes to West Texas weather, right? The quickly swifting changing of these high velocity winds and desert heat.
Hail. I work outside. I'm a swim coach, and I cannot tell you the last 3 years we have had such strong winds that it is so distracting.
Yes.
I can't imagine if you're playing football or you're playing on a court outside doing basketball, how difficult it would be to play.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely limiting in terms of any of our outdoor spaces, so being able to bring kids indoors and giving them an opportunity, again, that's clearly affordable, right?
So let's talk about that. So most places, let's differentiate ourselves from YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club. So for instance, the Boys and Girls Club serves a purpose because it is that third space, but they have a lot of programming because they've been around for a long time. They've been able to identify the needs of the people that need the Boys and Girls Club, right? Yes. YMCA is the same way, right? But because this is an open campus, right? one of the biggest goals for, I know, John Scarborough was to create a place that was safe for children to be able to play sports, get involved in sports, but to also do it at a very reasonable, affordable price point for people. So explain that. Isn't it going to be free for people to participate?
Yeah, we are not a membership driven service, right?
Jeez, that's so cool.
And again, we want kids in our facility, we want families in our facility, and we want them in there not being forced into anything in those situations again, but
to join a team.
To join teams.
So like, for instance, I know the Boys and Girls Club, they're fantastic, but
and they do a great job.
They do a great job. But when you're in part of the Boys and Girls Club, there's not, because at the end of the day, some nonprofits have to operate in a certain way so that they can afford to offer programming.
Yeah.
So like with the Boys and Girls Club, you can join a team, you can join part of their programming, right?
Yes.
But this, like what you're saying, what I'm gathering is like, if I want to go play inside and pick up some basketball with anyone who's there, I can do that.
To play, yeah.
Without having to join a team, without having to have some level of commitment. It's just a safe place for kids to truly enjoy the space. And what privilege is that? I mean, that's wonderful.
It's an incredible privilege because, again, you don't get the chance, you don't get to stifle their creativity at that point.
Right.
Right? They get to go and freelance it and learn it as it comes to them and
create community dynamics, right? Isn't that like, we talk about, I was recently discussing this with a friend who's a teacher, and she said she was really afraid to go back to teaching once everyone got back in the schools and it wasn't virtual school, right? Because there was a part of loss of humanity. We talk about sports, and initially in our first part of our conversation, we were talking about how sports can really even the playing field for people and make it more accessible and make it something where people can interact with one another, because maybe they don't even go to the same school, but the one place that they do get to hang out is the Midland Athletic Syndicate.
Yes.
So with that being said, I think that's wonderful, because if you're able to go in and it's a free place to be able to play, like I can imagine that you're going to start picking up on, okay, so maybe on Wednesdays, we might have free court Wednesday where, if whoever wins the most amount of balls gets like a pizza party. I don't know. I'm like thinking of all these things. It's a blank canvas, but I can also understand how that can also make people feel uncomfortable because they're like, I don't know what to expect.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that you can for sure expect is that it's a safe space. It's a place for kids. It's a place for families. Nothing more, nothing less.
No strings attached.
Show up. Pick up a volleyball, pick up a basketball,
cool.
Turn the music on, start dancing, enjoy yourself. Again, because we need movement. Our kids need to be moving.
Exactly.
Right? And they need to be moving in a space where they have the freedom, right? And that safety and that confidence to be able to move.
And have other people in their life care for them outside of their family and their teachers.
Absolutely.
Are you excited about that? I can imagine your dad, you're a coach, you're a teacher. I feel like you're going to have now 800 children, because they're you're going to probably, just like any coach, we end up becoming what our students, a part of us is with every single student.
And we become what they need.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we become what they need. And absolutely. And the team in which we're going to put together is going to be one that is kid driven.
Okay, so tell me about that. Who do you envision helping you run this place? I know, loaded
I don't have
question.
a name.
I'm nailing you down to it right now. We're going to write down job descriptions right now.
Well,
I'm just
job
kidding.
descriptions is...
No, just kidding.
No, it's simple for me, and it's keeping the main thing, and that is kids, right? The people that I want to work with are kid-centered, kid-driven people. Yeah. They love kids. They want what's best for kids in all things. And they don't mind being a mentor to kids.
And I think there's so much to be said about that, because living in Midland, it's much like, I like to compare it to a military existence, right? Some days there might be some years where you're stationed, or you're in North Dakota, or you're in Louisiana, or you're in Houston, or you're in Midland. And there's a lot of people, we call this a transient community, right? Because people are moving around all the time.
Right.
Or maybe dad is on a rig somewhere and mom is here, you know, or, you know, there's a lot of people on the internet that watch our show and like listen to our show on YouTube, and they're saying like, I can't afford to even live in Midland. Yeah. So by reducing those barriers for families to not only provide the space, but also to make it free is incredible. Who's all involved with that? Like, I can imagine and appreciate there's a lot of moving parts to make something free.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. And the big things, again, that we're dealing with, again, is our current sponsors, again, Diamondback Energy, you know, Permian Resources, you have ConocoPhillips, you have ProPetro, and then you have our amongst many others.
Yeah.
But then you also have like our foundations here, right? The Abel Hanger Foundation, the Scarborough Foundation, FMH Foundation, the Bill Foundation, right? Like all of these people are incredible, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. And that
they've been here for a long time.
They've been here for a long time.
Like the Beal Family Foundation has been here for forever. The Abel Hanger, like even in this building, they have a sign that says, since their inception, how much money they've put back into the community, specifically for family resources. Yeah. That is really interesting. That's so amazing that, you know, I think so oftentimes people are like, well, people need to invest back in the community. Well, you know, I argue, let's use some critical thinking and actually look up and see just how generous our community is. Because if you actually are attuned to that, you can see how many people really, truly do care about our community.
And this community, like, I grew up here.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm a product of people giving.
Yes.
Right? Like lots of giving. And these same people are continuing to give. And these new people that are coming into our city, they're realizing it. And it's a snowball effect again, because they're saying, oh, well, we have it. Let's give. Right?
Yeah.
Because again, it's going to benefit us all. And more importantly, it's going to benefit our kids. Right.
And you've seen that continuity too. Like you've seen it even when you were a kid. It's the same people showing up day in, day out. And one of the things that I really appreciate about Midland is not everyone likes to talk about what they do. Right. Which I think is how it should be done. I think all donations should be like anonymous, but that's just but I also understand as a business owner, like there's certain things, it's a nuanced conversation. But I just think it's wonderful how Midland oftentimes will really show up and they don't really want the attention. They just want to do it because it's the right thing to do, which is exactly what John Scarborough was talking with you. You were sharing in your interview with me about like one of the things he said is it's important to me that children have access. Yes. And this is not about making money. This is about giving children the opportunity. Yes. So resonating with that as a child who grew up here, what do you think that could have done for you as a kid to have a place that was free? Well, to be able to just go play. You love basketball.
I love basketball. And the best thing that I had was I had a head coach that opened the gym up. Nice. And they kept the gym open. And then we had the Boys and Girls Club, David Jones, you know, like we had access to gym space at that time, right? Growing population, growing numbers of kids wanting to play. We know that our population is growing faster than it's ever grown. There's more babies being born in the city of Midland.
Did you know in September and August of 2024, each month we had 250 babies born?
That's awesome.
That's a lot of kids.
It is.
Like, and I'm thinking as a swim coach, I'm like I knew that people are having children, obviously. Right. When you're a swim coach and you're a coach, like you're like, everyone will always have kids at some point. Okay. But I genuinely don't know as a, like, thank God we have the Midland Athletic Syndicate, because like there's so many youth activities that we're not prepared for that.
And that with it, there's so many different conversations going on because, again, I'm speaking with a lot of different people that have a lot of different ideas that also have lots of different programs that's going on, you know, from cheer to jujitsu.
Yes, jujitsu is a whole thing. That's I didn't even know about it to this year. Truly.
Yeah. And, you know, with a space like we're going to have, where, again, we have this 100,000 plus square feet space, it's not just going to be geared towards the big three, you know, soccer, basketball, and volleyball. It creates opportunities for all of our kids, you know.
I'm a huge advocate for reducing barriers for children for essential services.
Absolutely.
I don't care if it's healthcare, school, sports.
No, and
It has to be easy for kids to get to.
absolutely. And, a lot of those financial barriers that are being reduced, again, whether it be through, well, naturally from the giving, from these very generous people. But there's going to be more opportunities again for whenever we do have programming in place for scholarship programs, discounted programs for families and things like that for them to be able to participate. I want that. Right.
Well, I mean, and I feel like we were talking previously before we hit the record button because, Trovocie, you and I are both jocks. And
absolutely.
When you're a jock, like we've met a lot of different types of people, and sports is so transformative. I couldn't afford college.
Right.
So my mom was a public school teacher for 34 years, worked in Title IX schools for a majority of it. Yeah. And, anyone who can look up the stats of what it is to be a teacher, you're not getting paid a lot.
No.
And it's a lot of hours. And we were talking about, we both know friends, and I was one of them. I couldn't afford to go to all these fancy swim meets.
Right.
You're talking about hotels. You're talking about our racing suits back in the early 2000s were $1,500 a piece. My swimsuit.
Wow.
And you were only, the technology would only last 1 or 2 races. On average of a swim meet, we would be spending, the girls who had the wealth, the way you were supposed to use the swimsuits is you were supposed to use those 1 or 2 swimsuits per swim meet. So you're looking at $3,000 for swimsuits. So I'm saying all of this because I know club soccer is expensive.
Yep.
And I know club basketball is
club
expensive.
volleyball
And club volleyball.
Yep.
God, I didn't even realize there's a volleyball team here in town, and they're doing incredible things. I think it's 4-3-2 volleyball.
Yes. Shout out Coach JJ.
Yeah, I'm just learning about it. I didn't realize volleyball was so big in Midland.
Yeah.
But all that to be said, club sports are so expensive. And I can understand as a business owner, sometimes we can't get away from those barriers.
Right.
There's insurance alone, and paying really good people to work also. Yeah. So one of the things that we were talking about is some of our friends, we both have them, and who couldn't afford to do these traveling games or these, but they were good enough.
More than good enough.
So it's real. There's something that is really sad when you see a teammate who can't participate and they're meant to be there.
Yep.
And you were talking about how the Midland Athletic Syndicate hopes to host a lot of these really high level tournaments. So can you talk to me about that?
Yeah. Through the hosting of our own tournaments, hosting multiple tournaments in the volleyball space, soccer space, basketball space, it's going to create lots of opportunities, again, for our own kids, saving money for a lot of families on travel.
Thousands.
And lodging, eating out cost. But conversely, it's going to bring a lot of those same dollars back into the city of Midland.
Wow.
In terms of occupying our hotels, people shopping in our restaurants, shopping in our stores, and things of that nature. So again, we'll be able to get those things back. Get some.
I didn't even think about that because I'm thinking, well, I mean, if Lubbock has done an incredible job with this, it's my understanding that there's a lot of football and basketball tournaments and volleyball tournaments that happen in Lubbock. And I'm thinking, I listen, my in-laws went to Tech. I don't know a lot about Lubbock, but I'm thinking, don't they have enough? They got Texas Tech, they get the revenue from the Tech games. Yeah. And I know just from my own studies, any football game, they're bringing in millions for the community.
Yes.
So to do that for youth sports, I was reading an article today saying that youth sports is one of the biggest investments outside of women's professional sports that investors are looking to really invest in.
Right.
Because not only for the intrinsic value of bettering our community, but also the financial aspect. I feel like anyone can buy in on that.
Yeah.
Because they can understand that we're only boosting the economy.
Oh, absolutely. And again, in terms of, with us, we get the opportunity to be able to minimize a lot of costs
Yes.
due to the city of Midland's generous leasing contributions.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I was reading on the press release that there's a 49-year rental agreement, and then
Yes.
after a certain period of time, they can release and it
yep.
goes to 99 years.
Yes.
So okay, explain to me, because I'm just thinking like back when I had an apartment, and I was thinking like, that's a whole lease. What are they leasing? Like, what do you get out of it? So tell me, like, what is the city of Midland doing?
Well, city of Midland, again, leased us the land.
Oh, wow.
Right.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Right.
So the land was initially the city of Midland's, and then y'all are building upon it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And with that land lease agreement, it's, again, they give it to us again, what is it? I believe $1 a year.
I saw that.
Right. For the next 49
What a
years
deal.
with the opportunity to be able to push it to 99 years.
That's
at some
amazing.
Point. Yeah. So
can you imagine 100 years from now, the amount of children that will come through?
Oh man.
That just like makes me kind of emotional, because I'm thinking like, for one thing, I wear my heart on my sleeve, but like also, that is thousands of children.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, over a 100-year time frame, and I mean, it's
That's
probably
crazy.
pushing closer to millions of kids
truly.
pushing through in and out of those facilities, being able to use this facility. Like, it's going to be incredible. Like, and I get goosebumps thinking about
You should.
all of the possibilities and how cool it's going to be. Because again, all of our kids will have opportunities to be able to participate.
I get
nothing
that.
more, nothing less.
Wow.
Oh.
I even I'm just thinking, if I was even, because there is a large demographic of young professionals that don't have kids, and I'm thinking, I'm sure they can also appreciate that as well, even though they're not married or they don't have children.
Yeah.
Is there ways for for young adults to be involved in giving back? Like we were talking about mentorship. How do you envision that going down?
Well, in terms of being able to...
I know it's really early.
Yeah, it's very early again, and with us not really knowing what's all out there
In the
for
future.
us. But with knowing that we have young professionals, and because the city of Midland is also younger than it's ever been,
I know.
right? And
I was seeing those demographics that the Midland Chamber of Commerce had released, and the Midland Development Corporation in particular does a lot of research on the demographics
Right.
of what Midland is. This is like the youngest our city has ever been
Yes.
in regards to who's working the jobs that they're working. And I mean, if anyone in oil and gas can say that, there's a large transition of people that are very experienced that are about to retire. And there's a lot of young people that are like, I'm 32 myself. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like we're actually the grown-ups making the decisions now.
absolutely.
I know that sounds
Yeah.
juvenile,
No, but
but it's something to,
it's something to marvel at. And with that, bringing it back around, these people are professionals, right? And these people are professionals, and they get the opportunity to stress to our kids, right, how they get the opportunity to go pro in something other than sport.
I appreciate that so much, because 1% of athletes become professional athletes.
Right.
Less than 10% become college athletes. And we can get into, all of the things that sports can provide, economic development, socioeconomic, like leveling up. But it is also really important to talk about what you can do with your education. Why is an education important? And by linking together people within the community that might be retiring,
Absolutely.
or young people that are just getting started with the Midland Athletic Syndicate, I feel like that's going to be very beneficial, especially working in the trades too.
Man.
Like UTPB has a whole program where they're literally teaching and raising the workforce for the Permian Basin now.
And Midland is very unique in that I've had many friends and family members who didn't get the formal education that I received.
I understand. Same.
Right? But at the same time, economically, they're doing way better.
100%.
Way
I know.
better. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And these people have done great for themselves just off of learning the trade.
100%.
Right?
Electricians,
Yes.
like my mother-in-law's father is an electrician, or he's since passed. But, I have family in my own family that are mechanics, and they didn't have formal education.
No. And then on top of it too, just the city of Midland is very entrepreneurial.
100%.
And teaching those things and having people, young people, really aiding in the youth and growth and development of our kids that fall into our facility. I mean, this doesn't have to be limited to sport.
All right, so listen, I'm going to put a plug out there now and say anyone who is under the age of 35 and who is retired should call you
Absolutely.
and say, "Hey, this is my specialty. This is what I'm good at." Or whatever you think that you can bring to the table, give the Midland Athletic Syndicate a call and offer what you can offer.
Yes. Help me help kids.
Because there's always someone, I don't know, the way I started my business, the way we started this podcast is I wanted this. I wanted something like this within our community, right? I wanted a place where I could teach swim lessons. I wanted a place where parents could come and listen about what's going on within our community, so I created it. I feel like sometimes that's another barrier that limits people from giving back into our community is because they think, oh, well, there has to be a structure. I need to figure out how best to, connect. And it's just very robotic. But truly, shoot your shot. Give you a call and be like, hey, listen, I'm a math whiz. I'm a petrophysicist. If you have any kids that need help on their math and science homework, I'd be more than happy to help.
Right.
Or hey, I used to play basketball in high school. I'd love to, shoot some hoops every once in a while and be a mentor to kids. I feel like that's the benefit of having such an open blank canvas with this building, and having the support from Diamondback Energy and Permian Resources has allowed you to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
So,
because of their resources that they've provided us, we get to turn around and provide even more resources to more and more kids.
And whatever that looks like is going to be determined on what the feedback and what gifts of time and mentorship that people can offer to our community.
And it's truly limitless.
It truly is. That's wonderful. Okay, cool. So let me make sure I'm answering some of the questions that I actually wrote down. I just think you're fascinating, so we could sit here. Okay, cool. So where is the nearest, we were talking a little bit about Lubbock. Where is the nearest city that it has something similar to this?
Abilene and their Dodge Jones Center.
Wow. That's pretty far away.
Yep. And then that follows after that, you go Fort Worth with the Game On facility, Mansfield with the Fieldhouse USA.
I've been there.
Yes.
They also have an indoor natatorium. That's incredible. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then you go west. El Paso has the Don Haskins and the Nolan Richardson recreational centers. Not sure how they're total layouts are exactly, but again, then I think they have some Sun City things that they call out there as well. But those are the nearest areas, that has something. I'm not even saying comparable, but just similar-ish.
Wow.
Right.
So student athletes are having to actually go there to play their sport at the level that they are, because they're I think that's amazing, because Midland really truly does have a strong youth sports community.
Yes.
And a lot of our students are really performing at really, really high levels. And we can both say that because we've seen it. So I feel like that's interesting. I'm wondering what about Midland culture fosters youth sports so well, do you think? I mean, you're a native Midlander.
I am a native Midlander. I think that it's just that sports is a unifier, right? I think with sports, it gives us a chance to identify as something more than what we currently are.
Doesn't everyone want to have something that they can believe in outside of themselves?
Oh, totally.
Right?
I truly believe that.
I feel like that. And I'm a big believer in, I don't really subscribe to having like a small group of friends. And I'm a big believer that you can be friends with everyone. You just have to find something that you can relate to.
Absolutely.
With them. And I think that's what makes Midland kind of intimidating, is because there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people that go across different friend groups. And I feel like this space, particularly the Diamondback Athletic Complex in particular, is going to be such a unifier and really create more opportunities for people to connect. And after COVID, I mean, we kind of lost a lot of that.
We did.
And people are craving that level of connection, I feel like.
Yeah. And, you know, again, just with sports being a unifier, you get the connection, right? You get the human element, right? That which is one of the best things that ever comes out of sports, and why youth sports is so critically important is because of that social component that you have to their health and viability as people. That's right. Awesome. You get to learn all of these decision-making things, right? You get to learn all of these things that are intangible, you know, how to spot X, Y, and Z in people.
Plan for the future.
Yes. You know, amongst all of the other mental health components that you know, when you're dealing with cognitive issues and self-esteem issues. Right. Like,
did you know that on average when girls hit 8th grade, they are likely to drop out of sports?
I believe that just because I was actually recently speaking with a gentleman, and we were talking about golf, and he was saying, hey, when are you going to put the clubs in your daughter's hands? When are you going to put the clubs in your daughter's hands? And I was like, oh, man, well, we will eventually this summer, we'll probably end up doing some things. And he was like, keep her playing. Yes. And the reason that you want to keep her playing, he said, and he's specifically talking about his son who plays professionally golf, but he was in college, said that that golf coach was saying they have money left over every year in female sports. And it's not just women's golf, but it's basketball, soccer, because women just decide, no, I don't want to play it anymore. But you're good enough at it. I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. I'm like, why? Oh, no, just don't want to do it.
You're talking about one of my favorite passions. Being a female college athlete myself, former, whatever you want to call it, it's amazing how many people, things have changed significantly over the last 4 years in particular for women's sports, obviously. But what's really interesting is having a daughter myself. I know you're a girl dad.
Yes.
Your oldest is 6,
My
right?
only.
Your only. Oh, I'm an only child too. Can you tell? No, I'm kidding. But that's great because sports in particular, I was looking up I went to grad school for kinesiology, but in sports management.
Okay.
And one of the things that I was really interested in researching was why were girls dropping out of sports so early? And there's a correlation and semi-causation, we can get into the semantics some other day, where girls drop out of sports and then their self-esteem tanks around the same time. So even girls who are not in sports have this same level of confidence that goes down at right around 8th grade. So how old are you in 8th grade? I think 13, right?
14-ish.
So right before high school.
Yeah.
And then the girls who continue to play in sports have higher levels of self-confidence. They're less likely to do drugs and alcohol in high school and in middle school because let's be honest, it starts early. It does.
It does.
And that's why we have to have conversations about this. And then the success rate of girls leaving high school, either going to the trade schools or college, is significantly higher than girls who do not continue sports after 8th grade.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about body image issues. I mean, there's so many wonderful things that sports can do to help girls and eventually women have a better self-esteem, but also boys too.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I'm also really concerned about our boys now because boys in sports is essential as well for their self-confidence. I truly believe that we are more similar than we are different in regards to sports in general with boys and girls. Okay.
Well, you know, in terms of just
in regards to what they can get out of.
Yes. And, you know, a lot of us as boys, when we enter sports and things of that nature, we want to play in the NFL, we want to play in the MLB and all of these other things. But, I mean, most of us don't get that opportunity. But through sport, at least it gave us enough of a carrot to chase, you know, and it also united us with more like-minded people
Yes.
that wanted to chase these things. And now some of those guys that do ascend to those levels, they become our friends.
Yes, I know.
And we get the benefit of being a professional athlete without having to put our bodies in harm's way.
Oh, I know. My body's just now falling apart. And like, I didn't have any injuries when I was in college, but I feel like it's just now like, oh man. But there's something to that, you know? And one of the things I think about too, especially with golf, like we're going to interview my friend Elizabeth McCormick, and she's the executive director at First Tee.
Yep.
And my friend Jordan Davis is on the board. We were talking about the barriers that lead up to golf.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to get the acronyms all messed up, but basically the United States Golf Association and youth golf associations are trying so hard through organizations like First Tee to come in and reduce the barriers to golf, because that's an expensive sport.
Absolutely.
Like, we're talking thousands. When that guy told you, he's like, get your daughter in golf, and you're like, all right, so Titleist clubs are this much, greens fees are this much. Where is there a golf course? Don't come on our social media for this podcast and be like, they're ripping out the golf courses. We know. We're going to talk about it. Don't worry. We're going to talk to Dr. Stephanie Howard here in a little bit. But, you know, it's just universal. You know, for my sport, you got to have a pool to swim.
You got to have a pool.
In order to play basketball, you got to have a place to play basketball. Yep. In order to play volleyball, you got to have a place to play volleyball. So it's all about reducing as many barriers as possible. Obviously, there's only so much you can do. But to have a space like the Midland Athletic Syndicate, I mean, what an incredible gift to our community.
Absolutely. And then on top of it, like the Athletic Syndicate gets the opportunity to really join hands with a lot of our other community organizations that love kids.
Also,
right?
A lot of people don't know how much all of the executive directors talk.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I feel like coming from, you know, going to school in Dallas and like growing up in Austin and Houston myself, like there's not a lot of that. Yeah. Like sometimes it's very segmented and like everyone's fighting for dollars.
Right.
But here, it's almost like we have so many generous people that everyone wants to see everyone succeed.
And then on top of it, it's just like our area is so selfless.
Truly.
Right? They're so selfless. And when we're all pulling in the same direction and we get locked into something, our people make it happen. That's the beauty of coming back to the city of Midland, right? Like you get a group of like-minded people together who are passionate about a thing, and it's gonna happen.
Then you add in kids.
And
like, you know, I feel like if this community is passionate about anything, like outside of work, it's making sure that kids are safe. I mean, look at the bond. Like so many people were advocating for it. And it also shows the character of others that don't. Just saying, I'm going to put that out there for myself. I think what's important is if you're not doing something about any issue, you have no right to talk about it. No. And if you yourself are concerned about our youth, why not volunteer time with Midland Athletic Syndicate? Again, there's another plug for you.
There we go.
You're going to get so many volunteers.
Please do, because we want all of you.
You're going to be like, right? Jessica, you said all these people, I don't know what to do with them.
No, we want all these people because, again, every last one of these people here in our city that genuinely loves kids, they have a wealth of experience and knowledge that they can help pass down to some kid that is similar to them.
Yes, right? True. And do you know that there's actually a lot of communities on the East and West Coast that are starting to integrate retirement homes in with youth sports facilities so that there's more of a connection between the elderly population, which generally is more lonely.
Okay.
And with the youth. And the idea is to be able to share ideas and life experiences and to basically boost humanity's like understanding of one another.
That's actually pretty cool.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Like there's actually one place in Denmark, well, there's multiple places in Denmark and Japan where the nursing homes actually babysit some of the infants in the daycare centers. And I was like, that is so cool. Because apparently there's a lot of positive benefits from both of it. And imagine if the Midland Athletic Syndicate even had 10 retirees that offered whatever their life experience is to 10 kids. Imagine the ripple effect of that.
Yeah. And just in terms of just thinking it, or just being in the high school space for the last 16 years, right? Sometimes these kids just need somebody to listen.
Because their parents are not listening. I remember being a high school girl. My mom could have told me that the sky was blue. She probably still says this. I could tell her that the sky was blue, and she would tell me that the sky was blue, and I would be like, no, it's green. Just because I'm a teenage girl, you know? Sometimes we just need other people in our lives to give back to us.
Yep.
Cool.
And that's what we're going to be all about at the syndicate, is simply giving back to kids,
Cool.
right? And it's sharing it through sport, you know, which just happens to be the great unifier. Right?
How are y'all going to get the word out about the facility once it's all up and running?
Well, the big thing is word of mouth is a monster, right now. And then on top of it, interviews like this that are going to get out, access to Facebook again. We'll have our Instagram page going and all of these other things. But again, I believe that a lot of it is just going to happen organically.
Nice.
And then we'll really try to push it to where we need it to go. Not trying to bite off too much that we just can't chew. Because the idea ultimately is to be really, really good at something, right? Before we just start just taking on everything and being a master of none.
Yeah.
But no, the word of mouth is going to be the biggest thing. Again, things like this and raising Midland and all these other, you know, avenues that we have, News West 9, ABC News, all these different places that they have. But yeah, I mean, it's out there. And I know it's out there because I get calls from all over the state.
Wow.
So, well,
they're probably like, all right, so in 2028, we're going to do our football like camps
no,
here.
you'd be surprised. Like
I bet.
I've gotten some calls, and I've made some calls and spoken with some people, and they're like, okay, well, let's get us on the schedule for. I'm like, yo, we're not even open yet.
Can we actually get the concrete poured, please?
Like, we're not open yet, but let us get there, and then we can definitely start. But yeah,
that is so exciting.
People are looking to book space already in 2026.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So you're like 2 years out, and you're already having people be like, all right, Trovocie, I want 6 weeks for this camp, or like, I want to set up our basketball. I'm just thinking,
and it's more so speaking in terms of like potential dance teams, like competitions.
Like cheer competitions.
Cheer competition. Not cheer. I haven't heard cheer.
Well, get ready for that.
But I
That's
believe
a
it's
whole
coming.
thing, apparently.
But I've been about gymnastics. I've gotten calls about gymnastics, dance, and then volleyball tournaments, jiu-jitsu, karate, martial arts tournaments. I've already received calls on all of those things, all trying to book space in 2026.
What? That's so cool.
It's really neat, man. And I was just thinking, I was like, oh wow, like this thing is really gonna take off.
But that truly that totally makes sense now with like the business plan, because, well, I know you're not making any money off it, but like what I'm saying is like, it makes sense because if you're able to just offer something and say, listen, this is a blank canvas, y'all make it what it is. We need feedback from the community. We need people giving back in regards to their time, so that we can really truly make this something unique. You're really setting yourself up for a multitude of options.
Absolutely.
So like you might get yourself into jiu-jitsu now. I want to talk to you in 2 years and see if you know any of the like moves.
I'll leave that to my daughter.
You're a coach. You'll figure it out.
I'll leave the karate and martial arts stuff to my daughter, man. That's her world.
Speaking of your daughter, what do you hope Midland becomes for her and her peers in the next several years?
Well, Midland is already becoming it, right?
Oh.
And I say that because we're younger, right? There are more kids being involved. There are neighborhoods going up, and these neighborhoods are kid friendly. There's parks and walking trails and open fields all over the place. We're looking for a home. So we get to go through these different neighborhoods, and we go through at the wrong time, man. And all of a sudden you see a biker gang go through.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Do you remember being little and your parents would be like, okay, when the sun goes down, you better be back at this house.
Or the street lights.
Yes, or the street lights, yes. And I remember like with all of my friends on bikes, I mean, I look at my 6-year-old and I'm like, dude, I don't think I could like put you in a box and I think you would get lost. Like kids don't get to do that very much anymore.
No, it's
That is so fun
Yeah.
that they're still like, that's such a 90s kid thing. I love
or,
that.
you know, and what was it? I seen a video of a friend of ours, man, and a board member, and his neighborhood does this big block party for like Halloween.
Fun.
Right? So they block off everything. There's
That's
no
so
entrance
cool.
into their community, and it's just kids. And I'm like, how cool is that? Which,
Yes.
You know, and I've gotten with some dads, you know, out in Fort Worth where we're currently at, and we'll block off our street. We'll put our, block off our street just so our kids
See,
can
that's
play
what you-
soccer in the middle of the field.
That's awesome. Because I know about the Halloween thing
Yeah.
because where my in-laws used to live, it's like, I guess a lot of people give out candy, and you can see cars from all over come to those streets. And it is the most fun thing.
It is awesome to
Are
see.
you going to get off? It's literally like 4 blocks.
Yeah.
And like, are you going to leave those 4 blocks in any time once you get there? Because it takes forever. No, you're not going to get out at all. But
you don't have to, because
have to.
again, it's all community based, and it's all for kids and like-minded people. And again,
Yes.
like-minded people pushing and pulling in the same direction for a common cause.
But you have to talk about it.
Yeah.
A lot of times people just don't, like what we said earlier, they don't like to talk about like
Yeah.
what they're doing because they don't want to be prideful, and like I think that's
Right,
great.
but-
But at some point we do have to talk about it.
Yeah.
We do have to talk about what people are doing in our community.
City of Midland, we're too humble.
Yeah. Come on. Get a little ego about you. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we say you can't have an ego as an athlete. I don't know.
Yeah, but it is cool to remind people again, we're all doing cool things for kids.
That's awesome.
Right.
I'm so proud to even know you. As I can't wait to talk to you in about a year and see all the beautiful things that you've done for our community. I know John Scarborough and like Mr. Campbell and everyone else on that y'all's team they're working their tails off to make sure that this becomes what it needs to be for our community.
Yeah, no, I'm forever grateful, to be associated with good people. And at any point in time that I'm not around good people, I have to remove myself.
Yeah.
And thank God that the city of Midland has incredible people who love kids, and we are like-minded in that common denominator. What is best for kids is best for the Midland Athletic Syndicate.
And on that note, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you coming here today. And how can people find out where you guys are? How can they support you?
Okay. You can go support us at midlandas.org. That's our website. And then our Facebook page, again, you can find us on Facebook at Midland AS. Again, it's all there. You
And
can
on
find
Instagram too.
And on Instagram,
We'll also
Midland
share it.
AS or Moss.
Great.
So.
And we'll share it too. So like if you're not technology like friendly, don't worry about it. We got you. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much. I appreciate what you're doing.
Over the next couple of years, no
We're going to become good friends because my daughter swims too.
I know.
So.
Hey, sweet, awesome. Hey, we'll go for a scholarship too. I know how to do that.
Let's go for
there
it.
You go. You don't
I'm
have to pay
for all
for college.
of the things. Yep.
That's
I'm with it.
awesome. But what we'll do is, I know that we kind of caught you in the infancy of this growing.
Yes.
And I know that you guys just finished your replat and you're getting everything ready to go. So this is very much in its infancy. And as you guys progress and you start getting everything ready to go and building, we're going to start checking in on you and seeing how things are going. What do you need? We'll ask questions just to get updates, because I have a feeling that this is just going to blow up in a really good way. And I want to make sure the families of Midland understand what that looks like.
It's awesome, and
Okay.
I really, truly appreciate y'all.
Thank you so much. All right. See you later. Bye.